Well, hey everyone, it's another Friday and we have another surprise issue to deal with. So last night I got a message saying that Lexie, our Lexus RX 330, was having issues coming up with warning lights on the dash. They sort of told me a few things, so they were due to end the rental this morning anyway, and I had another rental going out on the car this afternoon, so I offered to go take the car off their hands personally and pick it up. But by the time I went to pick it up, the battery was completely flat. It wouldn't crank or start, and so obviously a power issue. First suspicion in a case like that would normally be the battery, but it could also be things like the alternator is another common issue there. So how do we know whether it's the battery or the alternator? Well, in this case, the battery is almost brand new, so that's our first clue. But the easiest way of telling if you want to do a sort of a quick dirty field check is to jump the car. Hopefully it'll jump on its jumper leads, and then you let it run for 5 or 10 minutes. And if the battery situation improves, if it'll then crank under its own start, or you get better crank than you did before, then you know that it's charging and you might have a battery issue. However, in this case, what happened is we hooked it up and jumped it. It did start with a jump. We let it run for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we turned it off, and when we tried to start it again, it had no crank at all and was clearly flatter than it was before. So what that means is the alternator's not working, it's not charging the battery, and so it's purely the battery powering the system. It doesn't take too much to power ignition, and it will slowly but surely suck that battery completely dry. So that was our quick field test last night without any kind of tools or anything like that. We're pretty confident it is the alternator, or at least something related to the alternator. Good thing about that is you can self-rescue. If the alternator's not working, then what you can do is you can take the battery home with you and charge it up, and then take it back, and you should get a few kilometers, a couple of miles out of it, no problem, on a full battery, as long as it's daytime and you're not having to use lights and things like that. In this case, I do have a spare battery at home, so I made sure that's all charged up. I've got that in the car with me now, and what we're going to do is we're going to get it from both sides. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to run stickers here. Our good old faithful $900 Polo is going to be our emergency response vehicle today. Stickers can charge up the battery that's in the Lexus right now. We'll get a bit of charge on that, and we'll also hook up the secondary battery with some jumper cables, and between the two of them, that should be enough for us to get out of the situation. I am doing something a bit controversial today though, something that is very much against my gut feeling, and I'm going to take Lexie to the mechanic and have the mechanic replace this alternator. It's very uncomfortable to do that, especially since an alternator is generally a very quick and easy fix. Now, rightly or wrongly, the reason I've done this is because my mechanic's pretty good. He'll only charge for the time he puts in. He doesn't book charge or anything like that. Also, he'll be able to get a trade discount on the alternator. You can get them cheap online, but I don't want a cheap one in this case. This is a working vehicle. We want to make sure it's reliable, so I do want a good alternator. And if you're getting good alternators from decent suppliers, or good parts in general, then often your mechanic can get a bit better of a deal than you can from those retailers. If you've got time to wait, then obviously you can get a good deal online. If you search around and find things, they're usually cheaper there. But we want to get this car up and running as quick as possible. We've already lost one rental on it. You never know, we might be able to turn this guy around nice and quick and earn some of our money back on a rental. So that's why I've gone with it. The other thing is, of course, you get a warranty if you go through your mechanic. So given most of the cost is in the parts, we want to make sure we've got a good part, but if it does fail, then the mechanic will cover not only the parts but also the labor as well. So that's why I've decided to go with the mechanic this time around. Plus I'm lazy. Alright, so here's Lexie. Luckily, again, not too far from home, which is nice. So we got stickers all lined up. We'll get into Lexie, we'll get our hoods up, and we'll start charging the battery. Pop that one, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Still have a tiny bit of power, but no crank at all. A little bit of noise, but no crank. Alright, so there we go, we're hooked up, positive to positive, negative to negative. And if we want to make sure we've got good connection, we should get a crank out of this now. So there we go, it's cranked and started. So to do the field test, you would disconnect the jumper cables from the flat car and you'd let it run for about 10 minutes. And then it should gain enough power in 10 minutes to crank itself, or at least improve the situation. That's what I did last night, and after about 10 minutes it had gone from a partial crank to zero crank, so we knew that the battery wasn't charging. So with that in mind, we're going straight to charging the battery off old stickers here. So we'll let this run for 15-20 minutes. In the meantime, we'll set up our auxiliary battery as well, and then hopefully after 20 minutes or so of charging plus an auxiliary battery, we should have enough to get to the mechanics. Right, we're going to put this right here on the passenger floor. We're also going to open the window. Then we can hook up our auxiliary battery to the primary battery, using our jumper cables. Just like that. And we've been charging for about 20 minutes now, and what we actually want to do is check that we've got a decent charge on that battery. So we'll disconnect our auxiliary just for the sake of the check. We'll disconnect good old stickers here. Make sure those don't touch, obviously. And then we'll see if we've got a crank. Which we do. There we go, our auxiliary battery is all hooked up. We'll just get rid of stickers here and then we'll get going. Alright, nice work stickers. Have a rest, we'll come get you later. So we're all ready to go in Lexie. You want to make sure everything is as off as possible, no lights, no power or anything, no nothing. Give yourself as much power as you can. I'm going to focus on driving. I'm not going to talk much. I'm also going to keep the windows open so you won't be able to hear me. But we're going to make it, I'm sure, maybe. Hey, she started. That's a good start. I'm also, as we go, I'm going to take all the back roads, which is a little longer, probably 20-30% longer to the mechanics. But if I do have a problem, it's a much safer, much better place to have a problem than on a main road. See you there. We're about a third of the way there. We've done about 3 kilometers, and we're about to hit the only section of main road we can't avoid. Luckily, only the first little bit is uphill. After that, it's all downhill. So as long as we get over the little crest here, and it's downhill from there, then we can at least get off the road if we have any issues. Off we go. Good news and bad news is the power light was on when we started. Good news in that it helps reinforce our diagnosis. We're pretty sure that that alternator is really bad, and now the car agrees. Bad news is it means all our warning lights are now on already, so we have no idea if our situation's getting worse power-wise. It just means at some point, if we don't make it, it's just gonna stop on us, which won't be fun. But we're just making it over that little crest I mentioned. It's now downhill for the rest of the main road, so that's a relief. And we are now turning off the main road, so that's good. We now have places to stop again. We're so close, but we're stuck in traffic. I think we can make it. It's only like 4 streets away now. We are 7 kilometers in, probably 2 left. And here we are. We've we've made it to the parking lot. And now we've made it to the mechanics. Still plenty of power with the auxiliary. And still plenty of power without the auxiliary. Hey look, even our check engine light went off. And our warning there. And our VSC light. So all we've got left is our battery light, which is great because we already know our alternator sucks. Well, there we go, gang. It's at the mechanics. Mechanics already confirmed the alternator and ordered it. It's Friday night here though. It'll show up tonight, but they won't be working on it till Monday. And then we'll get the bill and we'll find out if we made the right decision bringing it down here. There she goes into the shop for the weekend, safe and sound, not my problem anymore, and we'll find out on Monday if I made the right choice once we get that bill. So I'll keep you posted. All right, gang, it's Monday night. Lexie's home from the mechanics. We have a squiz under here. There's our nice new alternator in there. As you can see, it would have been a fairly okay job to get to. We're just taking this panel off, loosened the belts off and all the tensioners, and got that one out. So here's the situation. The alternator went Thursday night, diagnosed it overnight, and then Friday I had to decide what to do with this car. Firstly, I had to work all morning, and that when I couldn't do anything myself straight away. So that was the end of the weekend rental. We had to cancel that. And also, when I looked online, yeah, sure, we could get some cheapies on eBay for a sort of $200-300 mark. And sure, they say it has a warranty, but it's not a very realistic warranty when it's off an online store like that, eBay and all that kind of thing. It's hard to chase those kinds of things if you have any problems. And then, of course, it's your labor, so none of that's warranted either. But if I wanted something straight away, we were in the $500 mark. And that was just for aftermarket. It wasn't for factory or anything like that. I'm sure factory alternators from Lexus have a bit of a hefty price tag, so I didn't even look at those. So the question was, do I spend $500 and take half a day on the weekend to put this guy in and save myself a little bit of coin, or do we go to the mechanic? The option that we went with, we decided to take a gamble and we left it in the hands of the mechanic. And that was in the hopes that they might be able to get a part instantly a little cheaper than we can. And then we budgeted, 1 to 2 hours, so say an hour and a half, split it down the middle of labor, so about $180 in labor. And hopefully they'll be able to save enough to warrant paying the extra in labor. And then, of course, if you do it that way, the labor is warranted as well. So if there are any problems, not only is the part warranted, but so is the labor. You just dump it on them, it's their problem. So there's a little bit of value there too, especially on a working car. So that's what we went with. Let's see what we ended up with. And here we go. Here's what my mechanic ended up charging me for the alternator. It was $413. So about $100 savings on the alternator by going through a mechanic and them using their sources and trade discounts and all the things like that. So saved me $100 there. And then he charged me about 2 hours in labor, which I think is a little rich for the job, but happy to pay it because all up, that puts us at right around $650 for the job. So I'm out $120, $150 for having the work done rather doing it myself, but I got to keep my weekend and now I have a fully warranted parts and labor job on the alternator. And let's face it, I'm lazy. I wouldn't have got it done. The car would have been off the road for a week anyway, and then I would have lost that much in the rental market. So I think we did the right thing. Happy with that. Let's get old Lexie here all buttoned up and tidied up, bit of a clean, bit of a vacuum, and back out to work. So there we are, she's all cleaned up and ready to go. We'll kick her back down onto the street and hopefully she'll get a rental this week and that'll pay for the labor. And then we definitely made the right choice because I'm a lazy bum. Quick cut to a week later, just to let you know that about 3 days after this, Lexie got a 2-week booking. So yay, it worked. And it just goes to show that depending on circumstances, sometimes a mechanic is worth paying for. Don't quote me on that. I reckon you should always work on your own car, but sometimes maybe not. All right, see you next time.